My question is for the Minister for Indigenous Australians. You recently met with State and Territory Indigenous Affairs ministers about the huge number of unsentenced children being held in prison around this country, where we know their human rights are being abused. But despite your best efforts with these meetings, we know state and territory governments are moving backwards. Just this week, your Labor colleague in Victoria, Premier Jacinta Allen, announced she's reviewing the bail laws that have just been brought in so she can hold more kids in prison unsentenced. Why are state governments ignoring you?
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Thorpe for her question. Clearly, as we've said in the Senate on many occasions, that the area of justice is a state and territory issue. But the senator is correct, President. When we did meet in November in Perth, I did meet with all Indigenous Affairs ministers, as well as the Coalition of Peaks, who represent around 800 Aboriginal organisations from across the country, along with my co-chair, Pat Turner. And what we did do at that ministerial council, President, is call on every minister at that table to go back to their cabinet and to look at the issue of remand. We are deeply troubled around the rising rates of remand in this country, especially with our youth, and the overcrowding that's taking place. And it's not just with our youth across the other jurisdictions. I'm also very concerned about the area that I come from in terms of the Northern Territory. So, in terms of the question around whether the ministers have responded, that has been sent off to the ministers in terms of a letter has been sent off to the ministers following up on where they are at with it, and that is something that both Pat Turner and myself are following very closely.
Great. Another letter. Numerous legal experts told the Children's Justice Inquiry that your government could enforce standards on states to protect the human rights of children. You can use external affairs powers and funding agreements like we see in health and education. Why does your government keep saying there's nothing concrete you can do to protect children when clearly you can?
Well, I certainly reject from the outset that our concern for children and our rules around children, in terms of the question that you put, Senator Thorpe, you may not have seen, but just a few weeks ago we did announce the interim Children's Commissioner for First Nations children across the country, and certainly we want to see the successful applicant for that position announced very soon. So we are making endeavours, but we do recognise that the role and the Care and Protection of Children Act across each state and territory jurisdiction is a state and territory jurisdiction matter. So the role of the First Nations Children's Commissioner is to do precisely that in terms of the areas that Senator Thorpe is raising.
Will you tell the Prime Minister, and Attorney-General to use the legal powers and leverage we know you have to uphold our international human rights obligations and protect children from ongoing abuse, or will we just see more chats and meetings that go nowhere? Because that's all we hear from you.